And then, oh shoot!
Sorry,
I hate when you do
it was
that.
too late. It was too late. Then it was already rolling, and there's nothing I could do. So, anyway, welcome everyone. This is Boca Ben Live with Artemis League. Melanie, sporting a new hair
am.
color. Yeah, it looks very good.
Thank you. Thank you. Pink and purple, all the way.
Yes, I'm
Mermaid.
sporting a Rosh Hashanah decor
It's
that my
beautiful. I
kids
love
made
it.
for the school. I think it's a nice backdrop.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so we are talking about my favorite topic in the world. Do you want to lead us in?
Yeah. Okay. So, because
Cancel
there's a
culture.
couple recent headlines around this. So we're talking about cancel culture. Is it cancel culture? And the one that got me, well, there's two that I was like, oh, Ben and I think have opposite opinions, or not opposite, but differ enough from our life experiences. So the one that I have been following a lot, because I've followed the Try Guys for years. I mean, I couldn't even tell you how many. So they were back in BuzzFeed days when BuzzFeed was really big. And before it even had like the app, they were doing all like the YouTube videos and things. So a group of four guys would get on and they would just try stupid stuff. It was really funny. They would, and then they got big. And now I think they even have a TV show like on like cable TV. Like that's how big they've gotten. They broke off from BuzzFeed. They did all these things. And it's pretty reliant on the Try Guys. And then if they have a significant other, then they've been bringing them in as well. And then they would have like the girlfriends and wives participate. This is important. So not only are the guys popular and the face of this company now, but the women related are as well. So they have recently announced that one of the guys, Ned Fulmer, is no longer working with them, and it was because of an affair he was having with a coworker. And so it's kind of a big deal because his wife Ariel is also pretty big now in the Try Guy ecosystem. They're all friends. They go to each other's weddings. They like live stream each other's weddings. And so, he was saying it's consensual. I have feelings about whether you are, the person in power having relations with somebody under. But he did apologize, and he will no longer be working for the Try Guys. So that's one. The other one is G2 Ocelot.
So wait, should we talk about? Do you want to talk about that first, or just say both, and we can talk about?
I think they go with both. Okay. I mean, because it's about being public facing and making choices that the public may not agree with. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So G2 Ocelot, I forgot his real name.
Carlos Rodriguez.
Thank you. Has been asked to step down. I don't remember all the details. I probably should have refreshed all my memory before hopping on this. But he was in a video with people that the public did not see as positive influence. And so he was getting a lot of backlash because he was celebrating G2's win. And he was, trying to, celebrate with his friends. So he says, and he ended up tweeting like, "These are my friends. You can't tell me who my friends are." And then he was put on leave for a while, and now he's being asked to permanently leave. I think I got all that.
Yep.
Okay. But and then you had another one that was similar.
Yeah. So key point is the person. So it's Andrew Tate. We can get into. I think that's relevant in the discussion of who it is. So, but yes. Then the sports world has sort of also really seen the same thing. Robert Sarver, the owner of the Phoenix Suns and the Phoenix Mercury of the WNBA, he he has to sell his team after he said the N-word 4 or 5 times, and also I don't really think they're allegations. I think it's agreed upon, states of fact that there was inequality towards women in the organization, in terms of pay, in terms of culture and things like that. And so originally given a 10 mil 1-year suspension, he now has to sell his team, which the joke kind of is he bought his team back in, that's like 10, 15 years ago for $400 million. And now it's worth about $1.8 million. So his punishment is he's got to put $1.4 billion into his pocket and say goodbye. That's his punishment. Anyway, it's just kind of funny that the punishment is selling the team, which he's going to make more than $1 billion on. You also have the same with the Boston Celtics coach, Ime Udoka. I hope I said that right. He had a relationship with a staff member of the Boston Celtics organization, which is not allowed or not disclosed or probably both. And he was given a 1-year suspension for that. Consensual, but still with a person on part of the team. All right. You want to start? You want to start unpacking? You want me to unpack where I think this is going?
I'm going to start with the consensual thing first. It's really hard if there's ever a power involved. So one person is a manager or one person has a higher title, to truly be 100% consensual, because you don't know. It might be, but like with the Ned story and with that story, like you always have to kind of put that mindset on of like, was it actually consensual or was there a little pressure? And then they did that. You just don't know. And so for everyone out there, just don't have workplace relationships. Wait till you're gone and then get together if it's all consenting. So I'm just going to throw that thought out there. And then for me, it's all about being public facing. If you are in the public, you kind of have to adhere to what the brand, and somebody who likes to work on branding, like you have to kind of adhere to this brand idea if you are wanting to be that public person. If you don't, then you have a quiet little life on your own and you live your personal account that's locked down in personal life. But if you're going to be out there and you're connecting yourself to a brand, like just be prepared and make sure you're making the choices that help represent the brand. And that, because brands can't afford to have these big fines and brands can't afford to have the public dislike them, right? G2, everyone's saying, right, didn't pick G2 for the Valorant slot because of what Carlos did. So there's big repercussions. So, you know, I've been through lots of trainings in companies and they're always like, you have to put like, you have to put like, my comments do not reflect this company if you're going to be publicly connected to us. Or like been through huge trainings of like, you can't say this, or this, you can say these things. And if you are making our users, customers, our following feel uncomfortable, then we're going to ask you to stop and you're going to have to take a break from social media. Like it's just that intense, even for somebody who is just a community member and things like that. So I don't know financially and like whether the penalties are fair or not, but I do think that people need to just realize that that is a thing. And they do need to be like, if you're connected to a brand, you need to be careful.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think there's one thing you could do to make this universally accepted in his contract, right? Which obviously says you can't have relations with people. If you put the punishment, if you do this, you are suspended from 1 year. Everyone agrees, right? It's part of your terms of service. Hey, Boston Celtics coach, you signed the contract. You saw what the punishment was. No one would have an issue. And I think teams and brands need to put the consequences in the contract, because the only dispute and uproar is it too far or not far enough? And everyone disagrees. Some people say he shouldn't be suspended. He should be fired. He should be gone. Some people say a year is too long, right? So all this discrepancy could have been avoided by simply putting the repercussions into the contract. That being said, yeah, okay, go ahead. Yeah, comment.
I was just saying, you can't plan for everything. So it's like really hard to do that. And we don't know all the details, right? Like it's one thing if it was actually consensual, or is it like consensual? So I just,
well,
again,
I mean,
it is hard.
If it wasn't consensual, he would have been gone and never would have a job in this industry again. Right? Like that.
Yeah, but sometimes people say things are consensual and they're not really. It's just my concern.
Right. But I think this has been investigated. So I think they're clear on, I know what you mean. Like I do know what you mean. I think in this case, if it crosses that line between sexual assault or misconduct, the guy's gone. 100%, he's gone, and he's not working anywhere again. That's right. I think here is, it sounds like this is just a consensual relationship that is prohibited like it is in many workplaces. And now people are debating whether or not a punishment is justified. And I think if you put that you can't do it in the contract, then I think it's okay to put in a minimum. You'll be suspended for a minimum amount of time. And maybe they did. I'm not saying they didn't, but that's where it goes. I don't know. Should the other employee be suspended as well? Kind of think she should.
That's where that power comes in. I'm like, maybe, but not to the extent of the person that is at a higher level.
Also, what if this was a player? What if this was the Boston Celtics' best player who had a relationship?
I do think your position matters and impacts because it comes back to power. Like how much power do you have over your other people?
And how important are you to the team? So a coach is to some degree replaceable. He's also, I think this is his first year or whatever. It might have been his first year as head coach. So he's relatively replaceable. If this happens to your star player, there's no way they are banning him for a year. They would never do that.
Yeah.
So I think there's a huge double standard.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so that's Celtics coach. Did you want to keep going down the list? Robert Sarver, owner of
we don't have to talk everyone. I do think G2, observing the community and knowing people from within. Nobody ever said anything, but if people are quitting and like talking about it, kind of like TSM, like I just feel like he was probably difficult to work with anyways. And this was just like nail in coffin. And everyone's like, okay, we have a good reason to get rid of him now. Because he, in general, like the few documentaries and things that I've seen is he's kind of difficult. And he's always kind of been kind of fiery and like says things he shouldn't. So for Carlos, I think it was just already on the path of like, he was probably being watched and looking for something. And that probably was the last straw.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand the context as well. So Andrew Tate is a vile, disgusting person. If you look at what he said about women, if you look at his stock clubs and whatever, the guy is gross, like everything about him. There's only two people that I know of outside of like terrorists and violent not even violent criminals, maybe just terrorists that have been deplatformed. I love that term. And that's Trump and Andrew Tate, right? I don't know. Can you tell me another one? Can you tell me another famous person who has been permanently banned from social media, right? It's very rare. And like, there's people
you got to break a lot of rules to get off of deplatformed. I like that word too.
Yeah. I feel like Putin is even on Twitter. Like, I don't know. I think the bar is like really, really high. So that's the bar. Two people that I can think of. Please drop a comment if you know of any other celebrities who have been banned. I'm sure there's some, but those are the two most famous ones. And he partied with one of them. So then it also gets me thinking, is it because it's Andrew Tate? And therefore, what if it was Trump? Would he also be fired? Or is it just a matter of how bad the person is that you're partying with? But on top of that, although he did initially apologize, he kind of doubled down on what he did and said, no one's going to tell me who I'm going to hang out with. And I don't know. I'm a little bit torn. I'm less torn in this exact instance because it's Andrew Tate and he's gross. But I also see the case that if he was partying with Joe Rogan, people in that community might have said, would be calling for him to be canceled because they don't like Joe Rogan. So, you know what I mean? It's great. Andrew Tate, I get it, but I feel like if you party with people that your community doesn't like, you are going to be susceptible to sort of this cancel culture.
Yeah, I feel like my dog's about to bark, so sorry. But yeah, I agree. And I think who you keep in company publicly is important. Again, as an elementary teacher once, I was asked to take things down off my social media. It wasn't that bad, but I couldn't post anything about drinking. I couldn't be myself online because I was being watched by parents and being watched. So it's like, I feel bad, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, social media doesn't mean you get to just throw your life on everything where everybody can see.
Let me throw you a real curveball on this one.
Okay.
What if he didn't post about it on social media, but it was known that he did it? Does that change? Does that change anything?
For me, it does. I think it's less of
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But maybe because I've just been brainwashed not to put things on social media publicly.
Look, I mean, there's a whole long list of people who have partied with Epstein,
Yeah.
with pretty much zero repercussions, except for Prince Andrew. But that's not even because of the partying. That's because of the, let's call it rape, or
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
let's call it probably rape and predatory behavior. So
Yeah. It's so hard because at the same time, I think like, do I party with people? Do I hang out with people that maybe I don't know? Or if I do, maybe I think I can be the help, or maybe I just sometimes don't care and I just want to go have a good time. It's just really hard to like make those judgment calls. So for other people, but I think if you are 100%, if you are part of a brand and you're that like they put Carlos in their content, and then he goes and he's doing things that aren't part of like that don't mesh with the values of the brand, then it makes sense. But if
right,
he's doing something quietly at his house, like that, I'm pretty sure that's protected by the Constitution too, right? Like we can't necessarily do all the things like, sorry. Like,
right. But I definitely will also say, and like I read a lot of the comments
I
on
did
the
not.
first post. A lot of people. So firstly, the G2 Army is, I don't think, is this like woke group of people. I actually think it's the other side. I think it's like very much part of the bro culture, pro Andrew Tate, right? So I was also surprised, like, who is this G2 community? I think many people are
Yeah.
upset, but I think a lot of them are in that. I don't know. I hate to use the word like bro culture, but
Yeah.
a lot of them are part of the G2 Army because they like Ocelot, they like what he
Yeah.
stands for, right? So I don't know.
Yeah.
That's another thing. It's another tough call. We
And
gotta.
then, but then G2 has to decide, do you want to continue to encourage that to be your community, or are you trying to make changes anyways? And so if
Yeah,
the people who aren't part of that community are calling you out and be like, this is why I'm not part of the G2 Army, then you might change. I don't know.
yeah.
It's difficult. It's not an easy thing. It's very gray.
That's why we're discussing this. Thank you. Hello, Thirsty Minds. That's a pretty cool avatar. So definitely a gamer. And that's
Yeah.
why, yeah, that's why we're talking about it. These are interesting
Yeah.
cultural issues
Yeah.
that everyone's grappling with. I'm also kind of at the thinking that when you sort of are an influencer or you put yourself out there, okay, that's what you're going to get. You signed up
Right.
for this. You
Yeah.
signed
I
up
feel that
for
way.
to sort of represent a brand and be out there. And if your fans and your community turns on you, like, mm, 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 you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's hard to have too much sympathy and compassion for that. Even though
Yeah.
I don't agree that they should be doing that to them.
Yeah. No, that's how I feel. I guess that's my stance too. I'm like, if you get, like, if you accidentally get popular, that's one thing. But like, if you are getting popular and then you continue, or you are purposely trying to be an influencer, then sorry, it's a double edged sword.
Yeah, and look, FaZe, I don't know the whole story, but to some degree, got rid of FaZe Banks, who was like like the worst of the worst in terms of that sort of culture, right? Like,
Yeah.
so, and now they have a really, Lee Trink is like a very clean cut CEO. He's not telling everyone to go F themselves like Banks
Right.
would. He's not starting Twitter wars with everybody.
Yeah.
Um, all right, that's cancel culture.
Yeah. Woohoo.
Drop a comment. So let's just transition for a second. So, Melanie, you have some big news to share.
Yeah, I got a new job. So I'm doing, this is me being like, I'm not part of the brand. So I'm not forward facing. So I'm not going to say where I'm at. I'm sure if you dig, you can find. But so I'm doing like digital marketing at an ed tech company. And yeah, anything I say or do does not reflect the company. And I mean, it's really fun. It's fun to tap into my education side and then help with how they're going to get more schools helping kids.
Yeah. So what's kind of like the company's mission in the ed tech space?
So they are specifically helping English language learners and working on getting teachers trained to help them be better teachers for those kids, make paperwork easier, things like that.
Got it. And these are kids that are already in the U.S. or people that are overseas looking to come here.
Oh yeah, I
So
guess if you're not in education, you don't know what I'm referencing. So English language learners or multi-language learners are kids who are in school in the United States, but they either speak another language or they have like dual language. So they're not English only.
got it.
And so they have to, in most states, I think almost all of them, you have to take, if you mark that your kids speak another language, you have to get screened to see how, like, what levels they're on. And then they have to take like yearly tests and things like that so that they succeed and have like a good future through like the school system. Because, if you can't understand the language, it makes it hard to learn and grow and reach your
Yeah.
full potential.
And how has kind of, your approach to digital marketing changed from gaming, esports, crypto to ed tech, which is a very different community?
Well, like the strategy is the same because you really need to understand your users and who is going to be like your audience. But it's going to be, I don't get to like do like the actual like social media side of things, and that I'm just going to be mostly on emails. And so that makes a difference on what I'm doing. But yeah, just kind of making sure you hit the right people and that your messaging is clear. And like I'll be working on like segmenting and making sure that, if you're a math teacher, you get content that's relatable to you. So with like gaming in Web3, I was planning to do like content that hits like gamers and then kind of transition them to understand what Web3 is, what play to earn is, and then what create to earn and all of those things. So it's really about like education and connecting to what your users or potential users are. I'm a big fan of Story Brand by Donald Miller. And so it's like your brand, your company, whatever product you are selling is helping your user. It's not about you, it's about how do you help your user or customer.
Okay, very good. I feel like you're always like, for me, you're the front lines of marketing. You recommended, I think it was you who recommended the Millennial Marketing Podcast,
I
right?
love the marketing millennials.
And I started listening to it, and like, there's a whole thing on TikTok, and like, I don't really know 100% what the guy's saying, but it's very fascinating, very interesting.
Yeah.
So I always look to you for new trends, new things to
Yeah.
learn in the digital marketing world.
Okay. So this is one if you're trying to like grow like a thing. I haven't read the book yet, but this was from Marketing Millennials. If you like, if you like books, this is gonna be one.
Content-based networking.
Yeah, and I'm going to recommend it because, not because I've read it, but I listened to a Marketing Millennial podcast and they had this guy and he purposely uses like networking sessions, podcasts, things like this to win the sale. Win the sale. So I'm going to, and I've totally done this. I'm going to ask you to be on my podcast or on my webinar as a special guest. That gives me a chance to give you more contact with me and me to like learn more about you, but then I'm also making you feel special, and so it helps win the sale. Yeah, it was really cool. And I was like, what I like is sometimes I would do things with marketing because I was new to marketing without realizing that I was actually doing a marketing strategy. So it's really fun. And then the other one, of course, I just finished it. The one I just referenced because I'm a book person is this one.
Donald Miller. Okay, building
Yeah.
a story brand. I like that a lot. I think a lot of sort of, especially LinkedIn reach out is people are sending messages without identifying or creating any value, right? Like, hey, I
Yes.
see you're in a cool industry. Can we set up a call? No, why
Oh
would I do
no.
that? Like,
Yeah.
like what if I said yes to every single person? Like, why would in a million years would I do that? You haven't even told me what you've done. You haven't established any value. What's the
Yes.
point? And I think that's a great strategy where at the very least, if I came on someone's podcast, at least there's the attempt or willingness to create some value,
Yeah.
even though it's through the guise of trying to get a sale.
Yeah. Also, don't just invite me to your podcast. No, thank you. Again, it still has to have value to me.
And context, value,
And
yeah, value,
context.
context, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And I'll
it's
tell
really
you,
cool.
like I do get invited to a lot of podcasts, and to me, I don't care how many views you get. Like I'm not that type of guy who will like look
Yeah.
at the downloads and be like, not worth my time. I totally respect everyone who's creating content wherever you are.
Yeah.
But if you haven't done like an iota of research on like me or
Oh
my
my
company
gosh.
or what I've done, and it's then no, then the answer is no. Like, and it's not because you're small. It's because again, it's the value thing. You haven't
Yeah.
made the effort to establish
Yeah.
any value.
And you have to make quality content in general. Like, don't use, Boca Ben or another influencer as your like way to get big. Like, you have to be putting in the work for your content. And so that's another book I'm reading is about social media marketing. And like, it's like you just have to continually make content that's relevant to people. And then if you win over a Boca Ben or somebody else, that might boost you a little bit, but you've got to keep doing the work. Like, that's not going to keep you big. Going viral isn't the goal, it's building a community and building users and subscribers and things like that.
Yeah, no, very good points. But I'm also torn because as you say that, I also hate social media, and part of me just like wants to plant veggies on my farm in the middle of nowhere and never log on to an app that's tracking me again. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, you ever feel like that? That you're,
No, because I love it.
no,
And I'm like,
yeah,
Ben, let me write your social media for you because I do that on the side. So like I've written people's 90 days of TikToks and things like that. So I think it's fun. And then you can schedule
yeah.
it out and there's software to make it easier so that you never have to log in and you just check comments and you interact with people every now and then.
Okay,
It's
but do you
easier than
think?
what most people think.
Yeah, but if you are the type of person that does that, do you feel to some degree you're making your content less authentic by farming it out, outsourcing, all that stuff? Does it take away the authenticity of your content and who you are?
I mean, I think some people just need help writing. Like they need the help of like they have good ideas. It's kind of like having an editor. Like you tell me your ideas and then I organize it in a way that makes sense on social media. Maybe I'm better at writing hooks than you, or maybe I'm better at coming up with what hashtags will work, or maybe I just have a better understanding of TikTok SEO and it's impossible for you to know everything. So it's okay to get help, I guess, is my point.
Yeah, so you
And
don't see it
it's
as a
exhausting.
problem. You don't see it as an issue.
I'm going to
If
say most big influencers have people helping them. I don't think. And then if they don't, then they make oopsies like Carlos and then they post things they shouldn't post.
but
Right?
that's what makes Carlos. It's because of that, right? Like, that's what makes Trump Trump. Like, if Trump wasn't actually tweeting out those things and he had farmed it out, it'd be the most boring Twitter account, right?
I
So
would have been okay with
do you think
that.
though sometimes it is
But you do both. You do
yeah,
both. You can have scheduled content, but you can also have spontaneous content. So then you don't have to worry about it and you can go garden and you can go plant and you know that you have certain content that is from you and from your work, but you're not having to post it live every time.
yeah,
Because
no,
that
that's
is exhausting. And you're
yeah,
supposed to post like, if you really want to grow 3 to 5 times a day,
yeah,
at least 3 to 5 times a week, that's a lot of being online and posting. And I honestly think this is another thing I learned from marketing millennials. So shout out to them again, is you get more growth. Like you schedule your tweet. We're going to use Twitter for right now because it's my favorite. You schedule your tweet. It is more impactful to have engagement. Do Michael for the social media companies or social media that I help with, it's 15 minutes a day, or they say 9 minutes, but I'm slow. So 15 minutes a day, just get on and interact with comments, interact with other people's tweets, provide value. Don't just be like, I do this too. Right. So,
WL rocket
yeah,
ship. Yeah,
yes. Like you add value to your comments, you retweet, you share, and then you get more engagement that way because you're building your authority. Then people will go and look at what you're doing and things like that. That
yeah,
is authentic. That feels more authentic. If I comment on somebody and they comment back, whew, like that is a shot of adrenaline, right? Like if Pokemon like comments back to me, I would like go die a happy death right there, right? Like
okay, now
that's
we know
just
what I'm
it.
getting you for your birthday. A cameo from Pokemon.
I couldn't think of anybody else, but you know what I mean? Like if you have somebody that is an influence in your world and they comment back to you, huge, huge. So I am a fan of like looking at smaller brands, commenting on their things, and then interacting with people in your own comments more so than the actual tweet or post that you are making.
Yeah. Okay. Solid and solid. Yeah. I I agree. I'm playing devil's advocate just a little bit, but
Yeah.
for sure, when I go out sometimes, and I'd love to shoot content, but I also don't feel like being the one to shoot the content.
Yeah.
I'd love if I had a extra person that came around that just like took videos the whole time, and I could just hang out.
Yeah.
Because when I do go out, I make a conscious decision. I'm shooting content or I'm not shooting content, and I
Yeah.
try not. To, yeah, maybe I'll take a photo here and there of a concert, but like I'm either in or I'm out,
Yeah.
and I try to have that
Yeah.
mentality that today's outing is I'm going to shoot content, or today I'm not, and I'll put the
Yeah.
phone away.
And that's really smart because I think it helps your mental because you can't be on all the time. And that's also why people get help. It's because you just got to take a break, go touch grass and have fun. Don't live just for your social media and influencer accounts.
Awesome. It's a great way to end it. That's a great message. Go touch grass. Um, I have a lot of grass to cut on
Yeah.
my front lawn, not because the hurricane didn't really touch down here, but people
Yeah.
ask just on the topic. The hardest part about the hurricane was that A, it didn't reach us, and the school still closed for 2 days.
Yeah.
Just PS. Anyway, can't complain. But I did. At least I'm not. At least I didn't have to evacuate my home in Tampa. So anyway.
Yeah.
All right. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you now? Yeah.
You can follow me on Twitter, Artemis_league, or find me on LinkedIn, Melanie Risley.
Awesome. Amazing. Hopefully you'll be back next week for
Yeah.
more Boca Ben Live. Do you like the title?
I do like the title. It's way better.
It's not so creative, but it is what it is. So I
No,
don't need to
sometimes I get
sugarcoat
tired
it.
of people trying to be cutesy, so
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah.
And then you don't know what they're doing. Like, I'm really guilty of
Yeah.
this. I think it's like, I try to make it cutesy and funny. And then people are like, but what are you, what's it about?
Yeah. It's true. This is
No,
me,
it's.
and I'm live, and there's gonna be someone else. And
And
that's it. So
I like that we broadened it so it's not just esports and gaming all the time.
yes, it's just gonna be cancel culture discussions. I would love to just talk about that. Um, yeah, I just
Yeah,
always
me
feel
too.
the punishment is too severe. Always. People are
Oh,
human. People make
not always.
mistakes.
Not always. I think TSM Reggie should be canceled more.
Yeah. All right. My son is giving me the hook again because tell me what's the problem?
I can't find my game.
Your Switch games?
Yeah.
Did you look in the Switch?
Yes.
Okay, so that's all for Boca Ben Live. I gotta go find the Switch games. Thanks so much for tuning in. See you guys later. Thanks, Melanie.
Yeah.